3,000 years. That's how long "Nobody Blinded Me" has been one of the greatest jokes in the history of storytelling. Homer wrote a pun so good it survived 3 millennia, 4 languages, and a blind guy screaming it into a cave. Christopher Nolan had $250 million, 3 hours of runtime, and every resource known to modern cinema. He cut the joke. I have thoughts. I have so many thoughts. Let's get into it. Quick credibility check before I start throwing hands. I've been obsessed with this story. I've read multiple translations. I have opinions about which one is best that I will not be sharing today because we'd be here for another 12 hours. So, no, this isn't person who's never heard of Homer gets mad online. This is person who has genuinely thought about the Cyclops scene more than is healthy gets mad online. Slight difference. Much more annoying for everyone involved. And look, before anyone comes at me, the reviews on this thing are wildly split. Time magazine straight up called it a dud. NPR called it thrilling but uneven. Some outlets are calling it visually stunning. Others are calling the exact same IMAX footage muddy. Nobody agrees on anything. Which, honestly, might be the most accurate adaptation of arguing about Homer that's ever existed. Let's start with the crime I will never forgive. In the actual poem, when Odysseus and his crew get trapped by the Cyclops, he tells the monster his name is Nobody. Gets him drunk, blinds him, and when the Cyclops screams for help, he's screaming, "Nobody blinded me!" So nobody comes to help him. It's the entire point of the character. Odysseus isn't just strong, he's clever. Very clever. That's his whole deal. That's why they call him the man of many wiles instead of the man of many biceps. Nolan's version? Gone. The nobody trick? Got cut entirely. Yes, you heard me right. It's not in the movie. This movie should be named as The Audacity for the decisions it has made. Here's why that's not a nitpick. If you remove the cleverness, you don't just lose a fun pun. You remove the entire reason this specific hero is interesting. Congratulations. You've spent $250 million turning the smartest guy in Greek mythology into a man who's just very good at boats. Small detail, huge deal. In the poem, Odysseus tells his whole backstory. Troy, the Cyclops, all of it, to the Phaeacian king at a royal banquet, essentially auditioning for a ride home. It's a guy performing his own legend for strangers, which says a lot about how the Greeks thought about storytelling itself. Nolan changed it so he's telling the story to Calypso instead, while his memory is coming back to him under her spell. That's not a small swap. That's the difference between hero recounting his myth to earn his way home and guy in therapy processing his trauma with his captor/situationship. Genuinely different movie. Genuinely different message. I don't hate the idea on paper. Nolan loves a memory and guilt narrative. It's basically his whole personality as a director. But if you're gonna gut the framing device of a 3,000-year-old poem, better stick the landing. Reviews are divided on whether he did. I have a take. You can guess what it is. I mean, Hollywood hates us. That's very clear now. Zendaya plays Athena. In the actual story, Athena is the engine of the plot. She's the one who tells Telemachus to go looking for his dad, disguises herself to guide him, shows up constantly to bail Odysseus out. She is doing things. In the movie, she's less active goddess of strategy and more ambiguous guilt ghost who may or may not be real, showing up for a handful of scenes to stare meaningfully at Matt Damon. Now, to be fair to Nolan for 1 second, some critics are actually praising this as an intentional, interesting choice. Is she really there, or is she a manifestation of Odysseus' own conscience? That's a legitimately interesting idea for a movie. It is also, not for nothing, a very convenient way to hire one of the biggest names in Hollywood and then give her few minutes of screen time. Both things can be true. I contain multitudes. Let's talk cast, because this is where the internet has genuinely split into two warring camps. Matt Damon's Odysseus is being described as quietly devastating by some critics, and a guy who mumbles near boats by others. Tom Holland's Telemachus has been called both convincingly hopeful and so bland he's practically unreadable. And I want you to sit with the fact that both of those reviews are talking about the same performance in the same movie. The genuinely universal praise is going to the side characters. Apparently Himesh Patel and John Leguizamo are out here stealing the entire film in supporting roles nobody expected to matter. Which tracks. It's always the guy playing the loyal servant who ends up being the emotional core. Name one epic where that isn't true. Oh wait, this is the first movie ever shot entirely on 70mm IMAX film. That's a genuinely massive technical achievement. Some critics are calling the results monumental and stunningly majestic. Other critics looked at the exact same footage and called it muddy and underwhelming. Same format, same cameras, same movie. Two completely different visual experiences depending who you ask. At this point, I'm convinced half the critics saw a bonus scene the rest of us didn't get. Here's my honest, ranting aside answer. It depends entirely on what you walked in wanting. If you wanted a faithful, reverent translation of Homer, the missing nobody gag alone is going to wreck your whole night. And I don't think I can talk you out of that feeling, because I share it. If you walked in wanting Nolan does a Greek myth through his usual memory and guilt lens, you're probably going to walk out fine, maybe even moved. What nobody can honestly claim is that this is a disaster across the board. The reviews are too split for that to be true, and nobody can honestly claim it's a triumphant, unimpeachable classic either, for the exact same reason. It's the most divisive big-budget movie of the year, and depending on which four-word pull quote you read first, you'll think it's either a masterpiece or a war crime against a dead Greek poet. Would I tell you to skip it? No. Genuinely, go see it. Form your own opinion, because this is exactly the kind of movie worth arguing about with your friends afterward over drinks. Would I tell you to go in expecting Homer? Absolutely not. Go in expecting Christopher Nolan's idea of Homer, filtered through a guy who has made 6 movies about men who can't stop thinking about the past. That's a different, weirder, more interesting pitch than the Odyssey, but expensive. Am I still mad about the Cyclops thing? Yes. Will I be mad about it in a year? Also yes. Some wounds don't heal. I think the idea of Samuel L. Jackson as Helen of Troy would also have crossed Nolan's mind, and he would be amazed by how people thought the same. That's my take. Messy, divided, technically dazzling, occasionally maddening. Did you see it? Are you team thrilling but uneven, or team eye-glazing dud? Fight it out in the comments. I'll be reading every single one.